Welcome, everyone. I'm so happy to introduce my friend Ashley today. She's a dance expert, a movement expert. She has a beautiful community, so she's got that ability to bring people together. And and so I wanted to introduce you and introduce you to her and have our people check out her offerings and her audience. Ashley, can you tell us where you hail from?
Yes, I am so excited, Elizabeth. Thank you for making time for us to connect here. And so I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm originally a Floridian though, so I'm already cold. It's cold here today in North Carolina, but I'm ready to go to the Bahamas. So yeah, I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I will say we chose this area because it's incredibly family friendly. And that's one of my core values. You're going to hear that about me today. But we have a little bit of everything. So I grew up in Florida where it was like one season. Everything looked the same. Everything's flat. I love Florida, and so I just get like in awe and wonder of the colorful leaves. And yes, the season's changing, even if I have to bundle. But yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you for that. Can you tell us how you got into, well, just tell us what you do and then and let us know how you kind of got into doing that as a
Yeah.
business. Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's such a fun question because I sometimes I think like most people, it's so hard to wrap up what we do in like a short thing. So I'm going to start with I'm a dancer. I started dancing when I was 6 years old, and I got into it then because I had a choice to make. Mom was working, and she said, "I need you to do something after school, brownies or dance. Like those are the two activities that we can fit into." And I was like, I'm still very much, not as much as I was as a kid, but a tomboy as a kid. And the idea of wearing that brown skirt was like never going to be okay with me. So I said never ever to the brownies, which I thought was cool, but the uniform was like a no-go. And she put me in dance. And I got to start at a dance studio when I was younger that the motto was hugs, love, and praise. And so it wasn't a strict like ballet academy or any of that. I actually, unfortunately, didn't get ballet until I was much older, but I fell in love very early on with tap dancing. And so like even today, like that's what I do right now. Still to this day is I teach tap dancing, and I teach this art for a variety of reasons. But it has stuck with me since I was a child all the way through because I danced professionally and I owned a studio, a brick and mortar, and all of that. I've done all the things. Excuse me. But I have 3 kids. And through every pregnancy, your body changes a lot when you're pregnant, and you can't always do all the things in ballet anymore. And when you're super pregnant, you can't, butt ma up to your face and kick and turn, and you can't practice at home like you once could. But tap is portable and it's convenient, and everyone can do it. Everyone. I have people I teach do it seated. So I love this art, and that's what I do. I share tap dance with people globally online with my company called Tap Fit Fam. But originally, what's really funny, Elizabeth, is excuse me, is when I first brought my business online, I thought it would look just like it did in the studio when I had my brick and mortar and when I teach for other businesses. Like I still do substitute work all the time, choreography work, but it's not the case because I realized I was connecting with a lot of women more, but definitely men. I have several men in my programs, but women who really wanted to tap dance, but for a variety of reasons had maybe never explored it in a
Mhm.
studio, because that's kind of vulnerable, to like go into a studio space and sign yourself up for something. You feel guilty too, wasting the time and the money if you're not going to be good at it, all these things. And then also the idea of people that loved it as a kid and they had been away from it for so long. I was connecting with people all online, and they were like, gosh, this reminds me of when I was a kid. And I remember, and I was like, why not do it again? Why not tap back in, pun intended, to that childhood joy? And so that's kind of how Tap Fitness Family has evolved. Is I first created it with the intention of it being for whoever, very vague, broad, whoever needs it, wants it, I want to teach you. And that's still very much the case. But our community, I have a membership called Abundance, and we dance, and it's mostly adults ages 40 and up. some that are empty nesters, some who never had children. And we dance and we enjoy movement and have fun.
Beautiful. I love that. So my audience is either in chronic pain or chronic stress, or mostly in recovery from chronic pain and chronic stress, including addiction recovery. We bring in the ancestral component to that as well. And I'd like to know from you as a dance professional, talk to us about the value of moving the body that way, which is this kind of joyous, some discipline, but not necessarily. Tell us about the value of that for us physically, emotionally, and even spiritually.
Okay, so your community is such a beautiful community. It actually, I kind of feel a little bit like there's a lot when you even read that, or when I write it down and I read what you just said, like there's a lot there, Elizabeth. Chronic pain and chronic stress. So my husband is a chiropractor and deals with chronic pain and chronic stress caused from pain all the time, every day. And so I see it in patients that are, very dear friends of ours now. I see it every day. I have scoliosis, so I have a thing that I get to, combat, if you will. And the addiction recovery is what I think got me. I know addiction very well in my family. And I think if I could just back up for a tiny second, I think that addiction, and I'm not going to speak for anybody, but from my personal experience with my family members and I lost my brother in July of 2023 to basically addiction, the way he treated his body and all those things.
I'm so sorry.
It happens. Like, it's just, that's life,
totally
it's really hard to find joy if you're not looking for it.
Oh, and so, you're speaking my language.
Yeah. And so dance is joy. And I think that's why I grew up dancing. And like I said, I started when I was 6, but none of my other friends still dance. They all graduated high school and became moms and went to college and got jobs, and they're adulting now. And I love them, and I'm like nothing against any of that. But a lot of them, my personal friends and circles of people that I knew growing up, a lot of them, maybe even still drink too much, and they're not necessarily treating their body like a temple and enjoying life. They're masking things and they're covering things up. And it's like, you don't need alcohol to find joy. You don't need a substance to bring you joy. And I think for me, Elizabeth, I think that that's what dance is I realized really early on that it brought me joy as a kid. And I made a promise to myself. And I remember it, I was like 13 or 14. And I remember sitting in the studio and I just had a thought. It's very clear to me. Like, I can see little girl me sitting on the floor tying my tap shoes and watching everybody else. And I just remember thinking in that moment, I will never not have this in my life. And so over the years growing up, and I see people fight and struggle with addiction to everything. I mean, my own mother is addicted to sugar and it's killing her. I mean, she's diabetic, and I love my mom more than anything, but I'm like, fight, fight the addiction. It's just an addiction. It's not, you can control it, and I can't sympathize because I'm not in it, and so she needs you. But addiction to anything, shopping, porn, food, sugar, alcohol, we could go on and on, right? I think we all can I think we all have an addiction to something. I really do.
Oh, definitely.
I think that we all do. A lot of people, it's addiction to this, right? Like, I think that's a common one that we can all relate to. And I know my kids, I'm like, guys, technology, it's meant to be addictive. So that word is a really, like, that one is, I can feel it when you say it. I'm like, if I can help anybody find the joy that I find in moving my body and knowing that it not only is good for me, whatever that is, right? Healthy, exercise, all of that, but it actually makes me a better person. Like, I just got done dancing this morning and teaching, and we were dying laughing because I made a silly mistake. And my entire adult community was like, huh? My son was laughing at me. I had tears. It was funny. And I was like, you know what? That's a beautiful Tuesday. That's a beautiful Tuesday.
I love that. So yeah. One of our addictions, by the way, is distress. And one of the, yeah, that's actually a thing and like a pattern, a negative pattern. And one of the one of the real challenges that I, as a recovering chronic pain sufferer, pardon me, and my audience have is actually feeling safe in joy, because we get used to the negative pattern of chronic stress and chronic pain, and we're more comfortable there than we are with this other thing. And there's a lot of reasons for that. There's like, we've been let down, we don't trust, it's familiar. And in a chronic pain sufferer, oftentimes we don't want to take a chance to do something different because maybe it'll get worse. So you see, the negative mind plays a very powerful role. And
Yeah.
one of the things that I've learned about movement, now I teach yoga, and part of yoga work is dance. we
Yeah.
we do, you know, we'll do 11 minutes of just dance, you know, just whatever, you know, just kind of move your body kind of stuff
Yeah.
to move
Free.
the
Just,
energy.
yeah.
And and uh and there's all kinds of cool things that happen in the body chemically, physiologically, as a result of dance.
Yep.
And one of them is that it helps break up the habit
Yep.
of stress, this negative it helps break it up. So I can't explain to you, I have a biology background and I'm always wanting to know what's the mechanism there specifically. I can't tell you what the mechanism is, but I can tell you from experience, from my people and from my own experience, that it breaks that habit. It
Yeah.
actually
100%. Yeah.
creates some safety in the body to like, it's okay to relax like that.
Yeah, it's almost so, especially with tap dancing. Now, what you're saying in like in the yoga world, and that's very, I grew up doing all the styles of dance. So jazz, lyrical, ballet, contemporary, point, tap, all, you know, hip hop, minimally. I don't look good when I do that one. But all of the different styles offer something different, right? Salsa, merengue, anything of movement, it all does the same thing. It does that physically and chemically changes your body. That's why dance is universal. It's a universal language. Everyone can speak it. We might not all do it the same, but we can all speak it, right? And I think so. First thing, when you said familiar, right? Like feeling safe and joy is challenging because you're familiar with the stress. I think that's why dance is so powerful, because it's a lot of times I use the term when I'm coaching, I have a dance framework, and of course the word dance, right? But it's an acronym in my coaching. And so D is decide. You have to decide what you want first. You have to make the decisions, right? And usually that's based on a desire, but whatever. And that desire is usually based on a lack. So in the case of stress, you're going to decide that you desire to stop feeling this way, right? You always want the opposite. And then A is aligned action, because in order to get there, we have to take action that's aligned. And then N is notice, C create, and E energy. I'm not going to go into all that, but one of the tools that I use all the time is 5, 6, 7, 8. And I think that this is where it can become familiar and we can build upon and create a better habit, because you're familiar with it because you've practiced it a lot. Whether you wanted to or not, that's just the life that you've created it. But you get to create a different life, but you have to practice it. So whatever we're practicing, we're getting good at. And in dance, I think that it's so powerful that I learned as a little kid, even when I wasn't ready, like choreography was thrown at me. Okay, we're going to do and you're like, I don't know what any of that was. Ready? 5, 6, 7, 8, go. And you don't have a choice to bow out. You don't have a choice to go and just stand in the class and cry. I mean, you always have a choice. I take that back. You always have a choice. But the odds of you taking that route are really slim. When you're in a room full of people, you'll just fake it till you make it. We say that a lot in dance. And that right there, from a dance perspective, is more powerful than anyone has ever given credit to, as far as I know personally. Mm-hmm. And it helps you to create a familiar state of 5, 6, 7, 8, go. And so even if you don't know what the go is going to bring you, like you were saying, there's fear that it could make it worse. There's fear that you could get hurt again or flare something up that was finally at bay. It creates this trigger of like, it could also, there's an equal amount, if not even more, that it's just going to be an adrenaline rush. And that's what that chemical and physiological change is it's an adrenaline rush. It's a dopamine hit. It's the signals and the hormones in your body just doing what they're naturally made to do, which is actually be full of abundance and live in abundance and limitless potential. But we, as human beings, trying to live a human being life, create all these other limit and lack and fear and, you know, the stress and that's where addiction comes, because it's a very powerful feeling and we all attach to whatever we can really feel. That's why people jump out of airplanes, because they can really feel it. They couldn't feel it anymore when they swung really high on a swing. They need something bigger.
And so that would be, that's that's definitely addiction to adrenaline.
And so so for dance, but you know, and all dance styles do it differently, but it all gives the same physiological change. But what I love about tap dancing too, specifically tap, is it's an auditory feedback. So if you're just kind of dancing, you know, and you're just kind of grooving out to the music, even if you don't know what to do and you're kind of stiff and tight, you're still doing it. You're taking the next best step. You're moving your body. That's one thing, and that's a big thing. It's a great start. Everybody should start there. But with tap, the auditory of the feet making the noise and the sound that you get to hear, it's this auditory feedback, and it gives you that permission to keep going. It's like, you know, people go to the gym and they quit after one day because they don't see this big result, right? Or they quit after a week or a month or however long it lasts.
They're getting a different feedback too. If you're adding the auditory piece, then you're doing a whole nother thing to the vagus nerve.
Exactly. Right. And the stimulation, because it's an impact that we're making, the shoe hitting the floor is an impact. So it's stimulating again in that way. Yeah. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a man who I've forgotten his name right now, but there's a man who wrote about trains in the body, like these lines, energetic lines. And one of it is the deep front line, which goes from the tip of the tongue down to each toe. And so when we're working the feet, we're working the deep front line. And when we're doing mantra, we're working the deep front line, right? And the vagus nerve is hooked into the tongue. And the vagus nerve, for the audience here, just is this the 10th cranial nerve. It's as we call it, vagus means wandering, because it goes into the face, the ears, the mouth, down into all the organs, the breath, the heart, all the organs. So in dance, we're breathing, right? And then tap dancing is bringing in a certain kind of rhythm, and that's the vagus nerve in stress gets dysregulated. And so in these kinds of practices, and this is why yoga is helpful too, is because it tones the vagus nerve, and you can't positively affirm your way out of pain or anything else. You actually have to work at the nervous system level, and then the mind follows the nervous system, right? So it's this very visceral thing, very, very powerful, maybe more powerful than we even realize even today.
Oh, I think it's so beautiful, the science that's always coming out about the vagus nerve. And I don't know nearly as much as you know, probably, but I do have some research from talking with my husband. Again, the chiropractor makes sense. But I did not realize that there was a connection from the tip of the tongue all the way down to the toes. And here's why I was smiling when you said that, because I know for a fact, I've seen it long enough. I've been teaching dance for over 2 decades, that any of my students, does not matter the age. They could be 6 years old. They could be 77 years old, 87 years old. And I have all the ages. The student, the dancer who doesn't like to be loud, who doesn't like to be seen, who has a hard time raising their hand and asking a question or speaking up for themselves and saying no, that dancer is always the one that taps the quietest.
Isn't that
They're afraid to make a lot of noise. And I'm always like, listen, you don't have to speak up, but I have to hear your feet. I need to, this is your way to communicate. And it's really like gives me goosebumps. It's really very beautiful when I get to work with the same person for an extended amount of time, especially when they start this way, because I get to, one of the things I say that I do is I'm a movement and a mindset coach, but I feel like what my strength and one of my gifts is I get to empower people and I help them build their confidence. And I know this because this is an example of how I've watched it happen. A dancer can come in, they're very timid and shy or afraid to, and usually that's you're afraid to make a mistake. You're afraid to look silly. You have all these like things that you're wearing. It's like, just take off the armor, you know, like put it down, but that's not easy, right? You have to get to the nervous system of that. That's a fear, holding on to it. But through TAP, Elizabeth, I can see it happen month after month after month. Within like a year, I had one student a couple years ago. It was crazy. She was like the wallflower. No one, teachers at the studio were actually having her come to me because this is going to sound awful. I won't say the studio. They were asking me if I'd work with her because they were like, we just don't know what to do with her. Like she's not up to the level of everybody else. Do you want to take her solo? And I was like, absolutely. I'll take anybody's solo. Like, yeah, that's great. And within that year of working with her, she was very, very timid. And by the end of the year, she actually ended up winning nationals, which was a beautiful, like grand prize, like amazement to the story.
Wow.
But truly the underdog. And it was because she just became more and more confident in herself because she was dancing louder and bigger and more bolder and take, you know, and it's just like, I've seen it and it's so good.
That's amazing. So that's what that says to me from a trauma informed space is the routine you're having practice and you're doing it at the level of the vagus nerve.
Yeah.
So that you're regulating, toning the vagus nerve and giving the body a sense of safety.
Yeah.
And when the body's safe, then we start dropping our armor. But it kind of goes in that order. And you're doing it just beautifully.
Yeah. And, you know, I've never put it together in such a deep way, but yeah, it is toning and it's regulating because that takes consistency. Right. We can hear it all the time. Consistency is key. Consistency.
Yes, but the movements themselves are doing this toning and you're getting them to practice. And that's rewiring the patterning in the brain out of the old I'm scared stuff into a new way of living. That's the juice.
And the thing of it that's so great is like I don't need to get nearly as much credit because it's so fun. It really is. And when you're like, what's the best exercise you can do? The one that you're actually going to do. Like that's the answer, right? Like the one that you're actually going to do. I could go sign up for rock climbing, but I'm not going to do it. And if I go there and I climb and I do the things, where am I going to practice at home? I don't have things to, you know, like it's the one that you're going to do. It's the best one for you. And TAP, because of the magic that it is. I mean, we have EFT tapping for a reason. It's magical.
Yeah,
and it's the same kind of thing, you know, it's this constant, you know, so anyways, every dancer, it's a joke. I talk with people, especially when they're brand new. I'm like, are you sure? Like, I'm so excited for you to start. And they're like, me too. I think, you know, I don't know. I don't have shoes yet. I'm like, don't worry. Within like 3 weeks, you're going to be addicted. You're going to find that you're tapping at the grocery store, because that's the biggest joke amongst tap dancers. You're tapping in the lawn, you're going to be tapping in your kitchen. And they're like, oh, I hope so. Like, I hope I fall in love with something. I'm like, you will, don't worry. And that's why, because it's consistently being practiced because it's convenient. It's the reason why I never stopped when I was pregnant with all 3 kids. It's convenient. So, love it.
That's awesome. Well, my goodness, Ashley, thank you so much for spending time with us today and sharing so much of yourself. Can you let everybody know how we can get in touch with you?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. My website is tapfitfam.com. So I have all sorts of stuff there. I have a beginner's guide that's free on my website. So you can check that out if you're brand new. And then also on every social media, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, it's just at tapfitfam.
Excellent. All right, we'll make sure to put the link to the website in the comment section once this gets posted.
Beautiful.
And I was going to ask you about becoming visible, and you nailed it right there. You really have the enthusiasm of the wisdom of where dance has taken you,
Mhm.
And I feel that is what provides the momentum for the clients that come in that are like, they kind of want to, but they're kind of scared. And you take them right through that. I love that. That's perfect. So everybody, check out Tap Fit Fam and see, and you have a virtual component of this.
Everything, yes,
Yeah.
everything I
Okay.
do.
So no excuses, everybody.
Yeah.
Check it
No, and here's
out.
the thing, like I actually, when I teach on Tuesday mornings, I teach live. I have my son with me, but I have people who do my programs and don't join live. They don't want to be on the camera, or the time doesn't work. And then I have things where you can like purchase it and it's not even a membership. You can just have it to go. Like there is no
That's awesome.
excuses. I have
I
created
love it.
things to make it so everybody can do this, because I do think there's magic in dancing, and tap is just fun. So
Well, thank you so much. And
you.
um, have a great rest of your day. I really appreciate you, Ashley.